So Leo, is Ridley Scott someone you had always wanted to work with?
Yeah, always. He's one of those just great, legendary living filmmakers that has made a masterpiece in every genre of film. He's, you look at, God, I mean, Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, Thelma and Louise. I mean, the list goes, it just goes on and on. And I knew that he had a different style of filmmaking than any other director I'd ever worked with. I know he was technologically way ahead of the curve, but what I didn't really know about is how he was with actors, and I learned that he is one of the, he's fantastic to work with in the sense that he reacts to you on such an instinctive level. He trusts his gut with everything, and he just either believes it or he doesn't believe it, and that's been kind of the motto in working with him, and that's what you see up on screen. There's rarely a moment in this movie, I think, that people will say, oh, well, that was over the top, or, schmaltzy. He reacts to things to you as an actor on such a gut level. It's amazing. And, he's simultaneously able to operate 6 different cameras at the same time, and is so efficient with his time, and likes to go in and know that he's gotten a full day's work and accomplished a tremendous amount in that day. And he does. So he's an amazing filmmaker.
Let's talk a bit about your character, Roger Ferris. How do you see him, and what was it about the character that attracted you?
Well, what attracted me about the character is that here you have a guy operating on such a high level in CIA operations in the Middle East, trying to forge relationships with the enemy, forge relationships with Jordanian intelligence, and is somebody that really truly wants this war to end. He wants to be honorable to his country, but at the same time knows that he's operating in a way that his country may not necessarily understand or may not approve of. He's being undermined by his boss back home, who constantly putting him in life-threatening situations. But he feels that he's trying to operate in a different sort of moral context than his country would like him to, than that his operational officer would like him to. And he's trying to forge relationships in the Middle East and respect the customs and the people there, and understand how important trust is in his job. And the transition or the arc of the characters is one at the end where he sort of walks away from it all saying, I don't belong to any country. I don't belong to any idealistic thought and any political belief. I just believe that this war is wrong. And I just think that's an interesting journey for a character.
His relationship with Hoffman is key in the film. What was it like working with Russell?
Russell is one of the great actors of our time. He's consistently made great character choices, done great movies. And I worked with him when I was very young doing Quick and the Dead, and he had a great attitude about making movies. He was a cool guy to hang out with. He had a great sense of humor. I think both of us were skeptical as to how he would be 15 years later. But, I have to say he's got the same attitude that he did back then. And he's unchanged. And that's refreshing and a cool thing to see after all these years. And what you want to do when you work with somebody is you want somebody to bring something to the table, to challenge you. You have your own thoughts about what your character of the movie should be, and then you have somebody that may have different ideas, and you come to a common ground, and that's challenging, and it's refreshing, and it's exhilarating, and all those things, and Russell provides that.
How physical was it for you, and how was the shoot like in Morocco?
It was one of the hardest movies I've ever had to do. Just the general pace, some of the physical stuff, some of the action sequences were sort of defied my imagination. Like I said about Ridley, he's just able to concentrate and multitask unlike any other director I've ever. And these sequences are just sort of second nature to him. He's able to just do them and do them unconsciously, and not unconsciously, but he's got so many great people working around him too in all these different departments that are able to give him what he wants at any given moment. So, like I said, if you shoot a giant action sequence and the next minute he'll say, all right, look, I've got this helicopter flying around 2 blocks away. I want you to run over there and run through the entire town, tackle this guy, pretend to stab him, and then shoot these other 2 guys, and then just kind of weave in between these 2 cars. We're going to shoot it in 10 minutes. Are you ready? Okay, cool. You gotta, you just gotta get used to that pace, you know, and you know it's fun at the end of the day.
I've never met anyone that can change his accent as well as you can. Your English South African was amazing, and
Thank
now
you,
you're
mate.
speaking Arab, even dialects. What was that like?
You know, the Arab, it was different than a dialect in the sense that I had to speak a different language, and a language that I had never spoken even, you know, other than shukran, you know, no words in. So I had a great coach that taught me Arabic in some of these scenes, and not even Arabic, but the different dialects, difference between an Iraqi dialect or an Iranian dialect. I mean, it gets really complicated, but it came, you know, what you first have to learn is that it just comes from a different place in the throat. But once you kind of get accustomed to that and you learn the words, you just do the best you can. But it was harder than having to do an accent by 20 times.